Too.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to my world with Nat, Relocation Concierge here in the Dominican Republic. I hope you're having a great day. I'm always excited. I say it every time I have a guest, but today my guest is not in the Dominican Republic. She happens to be on the other side, on another ocean over in the Pacific in Cabo. So please, Christina, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful that Stephanie connected us, and it's so nice to hear from other like-minded people that are doing kind of the same thing. It's something that as a kid, I always dreamed of, like that I'd be able to live in different places with my family, but I never really knew how it was going to happen. And so it's quite a wild ride and an adventure, but man, I'm so grateful.
And I think for most people, when they, you say that people that will resonate with people that, to travel with my family, see the world. And we know people are doing it because I follow people online that are doing it full time. I guess it depends on the circumstances. Some people have now moved because of certain situations.
Sure.
What brought you to decide to move to Cabo, and why Cabo, I guess?
Well, that's really interesting because my husband and I have spent a lot of time in Mexico. We vacationed here, we got married here, we love the food, we love the culture, like we really do love the people, all of that connection, right? And yeah, there's a lot of things going on in the world, and we actually up and left quite quickly, but it wasn't because of one particular issue. There was a few things, right? There were a few things that were going on. And one of them, I had put my daughter, so I have a 6-year-old, and I put her in French immersion up in Canada. And I wasn't happy with the policies at the school. There were some things that they were teaching her that I didn't think was age appropriate.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I just, there were some things that she came home with that I was like, why would you even be talking about that? Like, how is this even part of your life? And when I expressed my concern, it was met with blank stares. And when I talked about some of the things that was important to us, they just really didn't care. And it's like, I'm paying my taxes to send my daughter to school, but they didn't care about our opinion or what we want, what we wanted as parents. And like, I look at education as something that you do together with a teacher, right? Like it shouldn't just be one or the other, right? And so I came home, and it was kind of the final straw. There's some mandates too that we weren't really excited about. And at 6, she really didn't want to wear a mask all day, nor, for health reasons and all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, we're not going to get out of this. So I said, it's time to homeschool. It's time to bring her home, and it's time to do this a different way. And my husband looked at me and he said, do you want to do it on the beach? And I was like, start the car. Where do you want to go? Like, are you kidding me right now? And so there was a few things that were kind of coming down the pipeline. And I was just like, you know what? There's so much fear mongering and anxiety and stuff like that. My daughter deserves to be a kid. My daughter is not a political pawn. She is not somebody that deserves to be depressed, anxious, anxiety, or anxious and stressed, which is something that is very prevalent in our young kids these days. Suicide rates for young girls is through the roof. And I'm just like, I don't want a part of any of this. I don't want to raise her this way. I want her to be a kid. I want her to learn how to swim. I want to go to the beach. And now she can learn Spanish. And the other reason that we picked Cabo, well, there was a couple of reasons, but one, it's a 5-hour direct flight from our family. So we knew at her age that it was really important that she would be able to be around and have the opportunity to see them more often. Like that's really, to us, having a village is so important to raise her. Okay. The other thing is Cabo is like this little gem. Like everyone worries about coming to Mexico. I'm sure people worried about going to Dominican. Is it safe? Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. Like you're going to get shot. I'm just like, oh, really? Cabo is this little gem.
Yes.
And there's so many expats here. There's a few, like I would say like 40% expats here and 20% locals. And then I would say like the rest of the people are from around the world because they're working at the resorts. And I have never felt so safe in my life. I don't feel at all worried about walking down the street at night, even if I'm by myself. I mean, you don't go out at 3 o'clock in the morning and be crazy. And then, so
of course,
none of that
That's
matters.
what I say. Yeah. Yeah, like, absolutely.
When I lived on Vancouver Island, I couldn't walk home from my job at 9 p.m. because it was unsafe. I didn't feel safe walking my dog around the block because of the homeless population, and they would get violent. There were people that were stabbed and were killed in my city. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
this is not I can't send my kid to the park because what if there are needles? What if they're like, this is nuts. And so again, not the life that I wanted to live. And I wanted to really harness those core family values. And I knew that I could do that here. And so
Yeah.
that's a huge, huge, huge reason. Quality of life is a huge reason why we came.
And it's today for us, it's our first day of summer vacation. Our daughter finished school yesterday. And it was kind of one of those milestones, right? When you do relocate, there's milestones we go through, and it's like she's finished her first full year of school here. That's big. And she said that to me. We had breakfast together. We had a mommy-daughter date this morning. And she goes, Mommy, I finished my first year at Isla Academy. I said, you did, sweetheart. Even she recognized what that represented. And, for us, it was really about adventure. It was about some change. It was about also, we sold our house at peak time. So we were able to leave debt-free, which was a huge
Us
weight
too.
lifted off.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that we're not working hard here and we're not, doing the things to continue to live here. But there was just so many pros, way less cons than pros to moving. And we're big fans of the beach. We're big fans of hot weather. And,
Yes.
Right now my shades are drawn because the sun is a little warm, but I have like a pool outside my door. I could sit here and work and watch my daughter play in the pool and we're all good. And to me, that is worth so much more than having to worry about all the things that and my daughter didn't even, I mean, we did do the mask thing in school for a little while before we left, but it certainly wouldn't have been something that would have wanted to continue with had we still been in Canada. So you're in Cabo, and I like that you shared the connection you have, because we had a connection to the DR, which was we were here in 2017 on holiday. We did the whole Airbnb experience, and we lived in this little community, and we're like, we like this. This is nice. And we went to the Colmado, and we went to the little local restaurants and ate off at the carts and the juice, huts on the corner. And actually, our daughter was conceived in the DR. So it's yeah. So I tell a story and I say, we came to Punta Cana for my husband's 40th for Sun, Fun and Rum. And we had too much rum one night. And 9 months later,
That's what happened.
That's what happens. So the connection was really important. And we had seen a show on HGTV that featured the North Coast, and we were like, yeah, let's do this. So did your friends and family think you were a little cray-cray?
Well, I'm going to be real honest with you. Okay. We did not handle that very well. We didn't, because they did think we were crazy. I've always in my lifetime, and this might help some people if you're considering this, in my lifetime, I've always looked at life in chapters. So different chapters of life. You don't know if that chapter is going to be 3 months, 6 months, a year, 6 years, right? And so when we decided to leave, and again, super transparent, they had made an announcement that you couldn't leave after October 30th if you didn't have the jab. Okay. And so at that time, we've been trying to have another baby. Maybe I'll have the same luck as you down here. Let's hope, right? We were trying to have another baby. There were just things, there were health reasons that we didn't, and we weren't ready to do that with our daughter either. And so the day that they announced that we wouldn't be able to leave, when travel is such a huge piece of my heart, I panicked, my husband panicked, and we booked a flight. We didn't even know if we were going to go, but we're like, at least we have a ticket out of here if that's what we decide to do. But we booked it just so that we'd have it. And so the next day we wake up and we're like, so what are we going to do? Okay, why don't we go for 3 to 6 months? So we told our family, not the 6-month part, we said the 3-month part, right? Because we didn't want to shock them, but they also weren't privy to the conversations that we had had about our house and about our 10-acre farm. And maybe that was no longer serving us as much. And maybe it wasn't our dream property. Maybe it was a lot of work. And if we wanted to do other things, maybe this wasn't the right piece, right? So they weren't privy to all of these other conversations that we had had over the last few years. And we came down here saying, okay, we're going to be gone 3 to 6 months. And then so like a little bit of time goes by, they're like, so you're coming back? And we're like, nah, we're probably going to stay a little bit longer. And then the market, we looked at the housing market, and like you, we saw an opportunity because it wasn't our dream house. We're like, we are selling at the top of the market. We are doubling our money in 5 years. And then we're gonna sit and we're gonna figure out, take a balcony view of our life there. Okay, it wasn't really working the way that we wanted it to. But now what's the next chapter? What's the next move? And so often people think of, okay, what's my grand vision of my life? And it freezes them because they don't want to make mistakes, right? If you can, right? And they won't do anything because like, what if going to Dominica is a mistake? What if I hate Mexico, right? But if you look at your life in chapters, then it's no big deal. It's what if you go, I remember I moved to Toronto for school and I said, Mom, what if I hate it? She's like, then you move back. Or when I moved in with my now husband, I was like, Mom, I don't know if I should move in. She's like, what's the worst that happens? You move out. Right. Yeah. And so that kind of was my thought process. So as time went on, and then we had to make the phone call and say, oh, so we decided to sell the house. That's when things didn't go very well because they didn't know where our thought process was. We were the black sheep of the family. Nobody really understood our side, which is totally fine. We're not into arguing about any of that. Yeah. And so we just decided to remove ourselves from that situation. And we did. And so when we decided to sell the house, there was some conflict and people, were a bit upset. But as they came around to the idea and understood, and as they've seen the market turn now after the sale of our house, and we saw what was coming, we saw 3 steps ahead, we saw that we wanted cash on hand right now, we saw that we wanted options, right? We actually just purchased a place in Cabo that'll be built and coming in June next year. So we have a year to wait, but we're happy where we are. They started to warm up to the idea. So your family and friends may not understand what you're doing. They may not see the vision, but what I can tell you is if you are not living in alignment with what your soul wants, what your heart is telling you, you're never going to be happy and you're always going to wonder what if. And so we overcame those challenges with family. We had some hard conversations and said, I'm so sorry that we did not communicate properly with you. We were literally making plans on a 90-day plan. 90 days from now, 90 days from now, 90 days. Still, we're supposed to go up to Canada in the next couple of weeks. We haven't booked a flight. We don't know if we're driving. Like, it's one of those things that we've had to really navigate and figure out. And that's what moving to another country is all about. Is you've got to be ready for an adventure, and not everything is going to be perfect. There's going to be some culture shock, right? There's going to be some culture shock after the honeymoon phase of you like get to live your vacation life for 2 months. That's amazing. Yeah. And then you're like, oh God, I need a schedule and I need to get my life in order. Right.
I think that's one of the things I've heard people have asked me, well, how does it work? What do you do? And I thought, I just live the same life I was living in Canada.
In better weather.
But I live it here. I still get up in the morning and make my daughter breakfast, make sure she has a shower at night, and we hang out and watch TV. And differences, we go to the beach to play, and so the routine of life has not changed. It's just where we're doing it. Mm-hmm. And for us, I had to slowly make the announcement too. Yeah. Like I told my inner circle, it wasn't just us. My inner circle knew we were doing this. For the most part, everybody was very supportive. Family was like, really? You're doing this? And I'm like, mm-hmm. And the last person I told was my dad. And my dad, who already knew because my mom had told him, but I had not told him. And I said to him, can you be really surprised? I go, Dad, I picked up and left and worked on cruise ships for 6 years, like that. And he's like, no, I guess I can't be surprised. So there's definitely a high missing factor right now. We have not seen anybody for 14 months.
Yeah.
I honestly, my husband and I, not that we're oblivious to anything, but we thought we're going to come down by the fall of last year. Things will lighten up. It did not lighten up. So we did not go anywhere. And for now we are here. The summer's starting. We're kicking it off. We'll see what happens. But those challenges are there. And I think that your idea of chapter is such a good one, because people who relocate, they think they look at me, they look at you and they think, well, they've done this permanently. But I don't think relocation is a permanent thing. I think it's something that you might want to do for 2 months, for 3 months. If you have an online business and you can travel and do that business from anywhere, mm-hmm. Why not? I mean, I'm still coaching online with my speaking. I do Teen Talk online. I do Teen Talk here in the DR. all my clients that I'm getting, through relocation, I'm finding them all online, and then they come down here and I help them in person. So it's not a permanent thing. You can go back.
You can
We
go
are
back.
still citizens of the country. It just means that, we took a pause. So tell me then, what were your biggest, I have my biggest wow factors about, landing here. What were some of the things, I mean, you'd already been to Mexico, but you decided to, go to Cabo. What are the things that, not shocked or surprised, but you were like, that's cool. Like that, for us, it was like, I found, like, people would say, oh, it's third world country. It's not, it's a developing country.
Yeah.
We get, yeah, we do, but we can pretty much get anything we want here. Like,
Yeah, us too. There's a Costco, there's a Walmart. Like, people don't understand
oh
that
no,
it's
we
like,
don't have Walmart. No, there's no
we're
Walmart.
like living in the Beverly Hills of Mexico. That's what's happening here. It's like incredible
Oh,
networking, incredible entrepreneurship. There's so many opportunities. We've been offered jobs everywhere, right? If you're good people and you're open and you're looking to network and connect with people, I work online. We don't need to do anything else. And that's a part of the reason that I feel very grateful that we were able to do this. But oh my gosh, when you actually open your heart to the people around you and start to get to know you and become a part of the community, then all of a sudden all these doors open. And so that was probably, I gotta say, the biggest piece that surprised me the most, like, of course I love tacos and tequila, like, let's be honest, but like the biggest thing that surprised me the most was how helpful people were. The community that
yeah.
came out, that when they realized you came over here just like they came over here, let me help you get a driver's license. Let me tell you where I get my insurance. Let me tell you where to get your car washed. Let me tell you where to get your hair done. Let me tell you. And everybody was willing to introduce you to somebody that could help you. Even we came down to live in an Airbnb when we first got here, and we were like, we'll figure it out from there, right?
Yeah.
So we get here and we meet all of these Canadians. We live in basically like Melrose Place in the condo that we live in with a pool in the middle. It's hilarious. And so we have all of these people that are like-minded thinkers. And then we say, okay, well, we're paying $1,000 a week to stay here. Like, how much do you pay to live here? Because like, we can't afford to spend all, at the time I was holding two households at the time. I was holding two households, and it was a lot. Now it's just one. And so we're saving money. And that's what people, dollar cost averaging, when you're looking at massive inflation, like, why not take an adventure right now when you can save money? But what was so cool is we got here and they're like, let us help you. Like, we've been doing this. We live here. So why don't we introduce you to the building manager and ask if there's any long-term rentals? And the same apartment that we were renting for $1,000 a week, we now rent for $2,000 a month. Right? And so it was just having those connections and having people help you, and everybody is willing to help you. The people here are so kind. So yes, I love eating tacos every day. Margarita is my favorite drink of all time, and it's fabulous. And we get to have beach days and good weather all the time. Like, I was made to be born in a country like this, where you get to be in the sunshine all the time. And yes, you get to work just like everybody else. But having that experience and being able to have a community instantly, like more so than when I lived downtown Victoria, more so than when we lived out on our 10-acre hobby farm in the middle of the country, I have community.
Yeah, there's something to be said about people who, and I always go back to when I remember when I worked on ships, that new person would show up, and they'd be Canadian. We were all best friends by the end of the day. We were like best friends. We were gonna be friends forever. But I know that if I were to travel to any country in the world right now, and I just Facebooked whoever's my friend in that country, they would welcome me with open arms because of that community, right? So the people down here, I would say in the DR is very similar. People have assembled. I'd say like people also have found their tribes, like there's some people that, there's moms that I get along quite well, but their kids are way younger than my daughter. So we don't have that affinity, but they have moms with kids, similar ages, and that works out too. We met a wonderful couple from the States who've kind of become our besties down here, and we do stuff with them, and their son comes over, and my daughter treats him like a little brother because he's a bit younger, but there's that. But it's always like, if you reached out, I think anybody would help us if we needed something.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. Like, for example, we arrived here The first night that we stayed here, within a week of us staying here, we met this other couple. He's from Israel and she's from Prague, and they have a little girl the same age as our daughter. And so we met them. They instantly invited us for dinner with them that night, took us with them in their vehicle to dinner that night, and then offered their vehicle to us for the rest of the time. They're like, if you don't have a vehicle and you're renting it, or you want to rent a vehicle, you don't even have to rent it. Just borrow our car if you want to go to Costco. Borrow our car if you want to go to Walmart, and our kids are going to play together. And like, it's just such a cool feeling for her to have community in a village. And the coolest thing too is all of these people that are down here as snowbirds, like they miss their grandkids. So my kid is spoiled to high heavens because everyone's like, oh, she's like my niece, or she's like my granddaughter, and they just love her.
Yeah. So that sounds all rosy posy, but there had to be some things that you were like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? Was this a good choice? Any kind of roadblocks that you thought, like, our first 3 weeks here, I had a massive ear infection, and my husband's like, so you want to leave now? I'm like, no, I don't want to leave. I just want to get better. So anything like that, you were like, oh, this is tough. This is a tough one.
Well, it wasn't a medical thing, because here you can kind of, like, if you need a CT scan, you can walk in and get one today for $57. You know what I mean? Like, so it was never the medical system here. I've always thought very highly of that, but the mail system is non-existent. Like, you have to use a third-party shipper from the States. I've had thousands of dollars worth of products go missing in the middle of Mexico. Somebody's using them in their home, I'm sure. Right. So I had to learn those lessons the hard way. The other thing that I wish that I had done before I left was set up our bank accounts a little bit different, because when we sold our house and we went to put a deposit, this is like very important for you, for those of you that are listening, because this is in Canada, it's pretty crazy. And so you have to understand this. I would have had my bank account set up a lot differently and probably had an international account, because when we sold our house, even though all of the money was there, everything was paid off, they would not wire transfer money to pay for the down payment or the first payment of the house that we're building down here unless my husband was physically there or I was physically there. So he had to fly back to Canada to release that money to get it here. And we're like, there's no way around this. Like, you've held our mortgages. We paid our mortgage. We just paid our mortgage off. You see where the money is coming from our house sale, and they wouldn't transfer the money. And so we had to set up different bank accounts and do all that kind of stuff. And I remember saying to my friend who moved to the Cayman Islands, I said, how the heck did you get your money out of there? And he's like, oh, I remember that I had to fly to Toronto and I had to release it. And now we did have a power of attorney set up. I do recommend, if you are going to move anywhere, have a power of attorney set up just in case. And we did have that set up. But what we learned from the bank is if that's set up, there's going to be delays and checks and this, and we needed the money within a couple of weeks to make due on our contract.
Secure,
And we had no idea that that was going to happen. So the mail thing, that was a huge issue. And the other thing that I wish that I'd looked into a little bit more, it's not a big deal now, we've got it figured out, but was learning what it would take for permanent residency. Learning what we needed to get in order, because now we have to leave the country to come back. There is a COVID temporary residency that you can get here if you stay longer than 180 days. If you stay 181, you can apply within the country to do that. But I would start asking those questions before you go, because if you want to get all your ducks in a row.
Yeah. And for us, residency wasn't on the table at the time. It may be in the future, and that means we do have to go back to Canada to start the process. So when the time comes and time is right. Okay, so I want to write. So you've given a couple of great things that you wish to know. So if somebody decides to relocate or listening to us right now, what would be some other tips like that you would, want them to think about, especially like a mom? I think of us moms, like one of my current clients, I said to her, make sure you pack a shoes a size bigger for your kids before you come. And she's like, well, why would I do that? And I said, because when you get here, you won't find the shoes that you want. And she's like, oh, I never thought of that, So like, are there any tips, any other kind of like practical things people should know about if they decide to do a big leap like this?
Yeah, in Cabo, you can get all of that kind of stuff, and you can order anything off of Amazon. Amazon will be the only thing that you will get delivered. Okay, so you can get Amazon.
So Amazon can come here too through a third-party shipping, but I find sometimes even shopping like that, you can't see it. You can't. I like to like look at it, and there are some places you can
and
get
can,
shoes, right?
yeah, and
Yeah,
try stuff on and do all that kind of, I
yeah,
get it. One of the things for me, what that was the most important was immediately creating community and a village for my daughter. Like she
yeah,
thrives on social. So I really got into networking on social media. I went into Cabo moms groups. I went into Cabo expat
yeah,
groups. I started to meet other moms. And yes, I had to take the initiative and get play dates going and all that kind of stuff. But what that led to, oh my God. So what that led to was my daughter now goes to a private teaching pod with a Spanish teacher in the morning, an English teacher in the afternoon. She gets to do Muay Thai. They're bringing in a piano teacher and ballet next year. She, you know, she's thriving in that environment in a Montessori style. She should only be in kindergarten and she's learning grade 2 stuff. Like it is so cool when you actually start to intentionally create that and you start asking questions and finding. So you have to be a little bit extroverted and you have to be willing to be the one that reaches out to people and create that community. But once you do, you're like people are there with open arms for you, right? The other thing
yeah,
that I suggest is being like, don't think that you're going to move somewhere and find a job and that's what you're going to do. Like you need to have some sort of thing set up either before you go or some sort of online income that is residual so that you can continue working down that path. Because if you don't have those things or your banking or your residency or all that kind of stuff set up, like I just looked, we talk about chapters. I'm quite interested in Italy as our next chapter, 5-year chapter, because they just put together a digital nomad residency where you can go and pay 5% tax and live there as a temporary resident. And I was like, that's so cool. I think that that is going to happen more and more and more now that we've entered this information era, that you'll be able to travel to different countries and maybe go and find a tax break, because there's so many of us that are sick and tired of paying 50% tax when we're not
yeah.
getting the services we deserve.
Yes, hallelujah on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Christine Whiteley, thank you so much for all your
You're
info.
welcome.
If you
You're
are,
welcome.
if you are interested in connecting with Christina, I'll make sure to have her socials all in the description. So if you want to know more about her, if you're open to asking or answering any questions about Cabo,
Yes,
especially,
yes,
or if you are
sure.
looking to relocate and you want to see what that conversation looks like, what part of the process you are, make sure you click on the calendar link so you and I can have a chat. If you like this video, make sure that you click the like button, subscribe to the channel. Welcome to my world with Nat, Relocation Concierge. Whatever you choose to do today, have an incredible day. And Christina, thank you so much again. I appreciate it so much that you were here today with me. Have a
Thank you for
great
having me.
day.
I really appreciate it too. You too.
Okay, take care.